Trader Genius. My name's Rob, and I'm joined by my brother Jess. How you doing, brother?
Good man, grateful to be here, brother.
All right, yeah, same. We had a pretty awesome discussion last night with the Diamond members in our club. Trader Genius Diamond members are the core of the community, alumni of our coaching program, and yes, just some awesome human beings who are at different stages in their development as traders, at different styles and disciplines and risk tolerances. But we all come together and we reset back to the basics. And what we talked about last night was dedication. So the first thing that we did was we watched a clip of Malcolm Gladwell. He's a pretty famous author, pretty smart dude. And in 2008, he wrote a book called Outliers. And we watched a little clip of him explaining what the I guess the most easily grabbed part of that book was, Jess, the 10,000 hours. And some people call it a rule, but the short version of that, guys, is if you're not familiar with it, you look back through history and folks that have really complex pursuits like composers and chess grandmasters, it generally takes them a decade, 10 years, or 10,000 hours if you cover those years with the amount of hours they dedicate, about 10,000 hours to get to a level of mastery. And that's not universal. It's going to vary by different tasks. It doesn't really take that long to learn to build a table as it does to compose a concerto there, Jess. But we watched it and we kind of related that to trading. And that's where we arrived with dedication to our trading. Doesn't really take you 10,000 hours to master trading. Stock trading, Forex, crypto, whatever your discipline is. Well, let's look around at some examples of mastery that are out there outside of trading. One guy that came up that I think you and I can both agree as basketball fans, Steph Curry. I mean, he's just a master, a magician out there. What do you think, brother? Do you think he spent 10,000 hours going over his shot and all of his moves and basically his all-around game? Do you think it's taken him that long to get to this level?
I think it's taken him time, but it's where he's focusing his efforts is what's made the difference. And the standards, we talked about a little bit how hitting the rim is doesn't count. It's got to go straight through. It's got to be a swoosh or it's a no-go. And so having these high standards and having a high bar of excellence and focusing on that pursuit has made Steph Curry, what he is today.
Yeah, for sure. And, we see that with, some of the other people out there. We talked about a few days ago, I'd watched There Will Be Blood. If you've ever seen that movie, Daniel Day-Lewis is one of my favorite actors out on the planet, and he's a method actor. And those guys get into character and they never break it. Even when the camera's off, they never break character. And it takes that level of commitment to really get there with acting or with Steph Curry and his basketball skills. I mean, you have a pretty powerful story of committing to something and, putting all that time, energy, and attention into it. You've been pursuing bow hunting for a long time now, brother. I mean, how does that relate to dedication and commitment for you?
Yeah, I mean, choosing the long route, not shooting with a wheelie bow and shooting with a stick bow, really does take a lot of time and attention. I can't just show up on the first day of hunting, opening day, and expect that I'm going to be able to go out, what I set out to do. That has to start. It's actually all year for me, but, it's got to start early. You got to start flinging arrows. And just because you can fling an arrow, accurately, consistently at 10, 20 yards, whatever it is for your ability, that's one really small aspect of it. You got to get within 10 or 20 yards, and I've chosen not to hunt with a tree stand and actually, try and beat them at their own game on the ground. And that provides its own level of complexity. So just being able to get to the point to where you're within 10 to 20 yards consistently to have that opportunity. So many things have to fall in place, and it's a dynamic environment, much like the market environment is extremely dynamic. You can only control what you can control. And to have the most success, you've got to become a master at what you can control to be able to then be able to manage all these dynamic situations that are going to occur and have the appropriate response to that environment. So that takes time, it takes consistency over time for that. And kind of back to the Steph Curry thing is that ultimate focus and having a high bar of excellence. Because any kind of slacking on it could lead to a wounded animal or a missed opportunity or an injury to yourself, whatever it is. No different in trading. It may lead to a missed opportunity, may lead to donating a chunk of your bank account to the market, by not having that stuff dialed in. So yeah, being able to spend that time, and it does take time, on average, some people say with a longbow, looking at 10 years roughly. And most people attrition out and move on to a compound bow because it is more simple. It has its own challenges. There's things that are different with that, but your odds of getting better increase. So it depends what your pursuit is. And we'll talk a little bit about that, I think, a little bit later. But what is your end goal? Is it the skill of becoming a traditional archer that's being able to interact with its environment? Or is the end result just filling the fridge? If it's just filling the fridge, pick up the rifle and go for it. And that's a whole different skill set in and of itself, depending on how far you want to take it. But it's what you're focused on that matters. And so for Rob, how does one, if somebody says that they are going to be doing some sort of pursuit, whether it's basketball, whether it's hunting, whether it's trading, can they just go out there and just kind of practice whatever? Or does the type of practice matter?
No, quality of practice definitely matters. And that was the second clip of Malcolm Gladwell that we watched last night with the our fellow members and traders. And he was talking about, like, it was 2018, so it was about 10 years after the book came out, and he was being interviewed, and he's talked to us about, like, if he wrote it again, he would pay more attention to that quality of practice. And he acknowledged that a lot of the research that went into 10,000 hours and making that, obviously it's stuck in our brains, and if you ever heard of it, it's stuck in pretty much everybody's brain. Here, 10,000 hours. But basically you can shorten that amount of time or attention you need to give to something if you train deliberately. He used that word expressly, deliberate. What does it mean to have deliberate practice? Well, when I think deliberate practice, I think of the way we go about trading and making sure that attention to detail on steps 1 through Z in your process, however many steps there are, not shortchanging them, and executing each step in the process with intent. Now, I cut my teeth as a forward observer in the Marines, brother, and then I got to the point where I was a JTAC, and I really, really had to pay attention to what I was doing because I was wielding a lot of firepower out there, and you know what it's like from being in a combat environment. Like the fog of war sets in, and that confusion can lead you astray. But I stayed dedicated to it, and I trained the right way with that, so that when it came to crunch time, the practice that I had done back in the comforts of some training range in Yuma, Arizona, I reinforced the right action and the right way to go about that job, just like I do that with my trading. We've trained in the simulator, you and I both, and most members of Trader Genius have leveraged that simulator to work out all those kinks and basically not have to pay that tuition to whoever the heck it is out in the market that hoovers up all our money. And so that's what I think it is. It's like that deliberate practice. I think that's the key word that we heard last night, and that's what dedication really takes, doing things the right way. What does that mean to you? Deliberate practice, brother. What is that? What imagery does that invoke?
It invokes the Blue Angels for me. Their practice, they are dedicated to their practice and they don't skip steps. So they're in their simulated environment around a table, going through the commands and hearing and actually miming the actual actions of throttle and thrust and all this kind of stuff, and how they're going to navigate that massive machine. They're doing it with pencils and just their hands with their eyes closed, and they're talking it through, no different than our simulator, right? Going through each thing and not skipping any step, to include even how they walk out on the flight line and how they disperse to the various craft that they're going to. That all matters, and they do it the same way every single time. So there's the dedication. There's the idea of saying, hey, I'm dedicated. And many people, oh, I'm dedicated, but I want to get to the meat and potatoes. We'll show up on the flight line like we should in this very formal way when the time comes. But during practice, let's just cowboy out to our jets and hop in and get to the fun part. Well, that's not going to translate to being able to create this this show, this showing of excellence that the Blue Angels have. It's because they don't skip steps. They stay dedicated to every single step along the way. So, for example, if you get in a replay simulator, are you still logging your trades? Or are you skipping logging? When you get in the replay simulator, you go, I don't need to log, it's just replay. Well, what's that going to translate to when you go into a live market? All of a sudden, you're going to start logging all your trades religiously with 100% dedication? Well, maybe, but you're also opening a door. You're cracking a window to the opportunity to go, man, I'm going to hit the easy button today, just like I do in the simulator, and I'm not going to log my trades today. It's allowing these things to creep into the environment that causes drift that we think is innocent enough, or we'll make up for it tomorrow, or whatever the excuses are, so we can kind of sit back and not actually create the level of performance or be as dedicated as we say that we are. So really, those Blue Angels, man, the reason why they can fly within 3 meters or 1 meter of each other or whatever it is, that's insane. That's absolutely crazy. They're moving 600 kilometers an hour, and they're flying within feet of each other. Like, this is nuts. And how do they get to that point? Well, it's through that dedication to the process and to excellence. That's been the big thing that stand out to me. So with these folks that are dedicated, what does commitment to trading look like, Rob? How do we translate what the Blue Angels do? How do we translate what Malcolm Gladwell talks about to actually create this commitment to trading in a behavioral sort of way, and not just saying, hey, I'm committed to trading? What does that actually look like?
Well, you have to live it. You have to dedicate yourself 100% of yourself, non-negotiably, all the time. You need to be a practitioner of trading the way that you plan to trade that's going to sustain you. The crucial difference, and for everybody who's not familiar with the Blue Angels, they're the exposition team, some Navy and Marine pilots, were very, very accomplished, and they put on those shows, and they tour around, basically push those aircraft to the limits and have this razor thin margin of error. But the crucial difference between them and us, dude, is they're putting on a performance. We don't have effing spectators. We don't have to worry about putting on a good show. In fact, it shouldn't be, if you're, check me on this, but if you're starting to feel the rush and the thrill of gains, it's probably a sign that you're not in the right place. You and I strive for the boring, effective way of going about our trading. I think that's the crucial difference between us and them, but there's a ton that we can learn from high performers like that, or your Steph Currys or your Daniel Day-Lewis. Those guys, the attention to detail and being meticulous with it, that's what we see now as the finished product. What we didn't see was all the hard work, right? Nobody gets to see them out in El Centro, the Blue Angels, when they're doing their 100-day training package or 10 weeks, whatever it was. They don't get to be on the sidelines when they're making all their mistakes on their way to that excellence. and they don't get to be with Steph Curry when he's in the backyard with his dad and his brother. And they play, hey, if it touches the rim, even glances the rim, it doesn't count. It needs to be a swish every time. That is setting the bar high. That's what we can do as traders, not accept mediocrity. That's unfortunately, guys out there, it's pervasive. It's okay to be mediocre. That doesn't stand with trading. This is a business world. It's not forgiving in that way. So shoot for excellence. And we asked some of our members last night about this, Jess, like, what's a synonym for dedication? How do you live it, breathe it, and bleed it 24/7? So they said commitment was probably the first one. A couple of the guys and girls said engagement. I thought of immersion. Immerse yourself in that environment. That's what Steph Curry did to get to the level he's at. I mean, all day, every day, in the gym, ball in his hands, trying different ways to, basically fix and perfect his shot. Blue Angels do that too. They're immersed in it. They're training every single day the right way. So we have that choice. To dedicate yourself to trading is a choice. Live it every single day. Engage with your trading system in some shape or form every single day. Whatever you're trading, if that's Forex, you got 5 days a week, 24 hours a day to get in there. We have a Forex simulator. If you're in the stock market, whatever that is, if you have a monthly investment portfolio that you manage, cool. You really don't have to do that much, but you still have to do it. And oh, by the way, maybe just showing up once a month is like Allen Iverson. He doesn't want to practice, right? You remember that famous stuff, bro? I know you're a basketball fan, so I could bring that up. We're talking about practice, man. How does that go if you, let's talk about shortcuts and where we veer away from the dedication. Like Allen Iverson's a great contrast to Steph Curry, because I think you and I can both tell Steph Curry practices the way he's going to play. But if you don't mind, sharing that with everybody, what was Allen Iverson complaining about practice for? He wanted to just show up for the games. How did that work out for him?
Yeah, that didn't work out so good. He thought he was already good enough. So I don't need to practice. I've got this in the bag. Well, let's go back to the whole Blue Angels example. They're the 1/10 of the 1/10 of the 1% of the pilots out there. They show up. They don't even know if they're going to make it as a Blue Angel. They're some of the best pilots that exist in the world. And they go into training to become a Blue Angel. And they're like, I don't even know that I'm going to be able to make it through this to where I'm going to have the skills and the ability and the trust of my team to be able to perform at this level. And it's completely different. And one is completely ego driven, and the other one is completely removing the ego and realizing where you are in the environment that you're in, and realizing that the bar, the standard, is very high. And when we look at that, it's not just, it's the immersion, but it's the quality and focus of that immersion. So sitting at the computer and practicing for 8 hours nonstop is not going to get me to where I want to go. That quality of that practice and my ability to focus for that length of time, it's going to erode, and it's going to create something that is unsustainable. And so what that then leads to for a lot of folks is shortcuts.